Process Podcast, breaking down the daily habits, processes, and tools of high achievers. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilson.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Process Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Wilson. Today's guest is the founder of LadyBossBlogger.com, Elaine Rau. I want you to take a second to imagine this scenario. You quit your job. I know that's pretty fun to imagine, right? You move to a foreign country where you don't speak the language, and the only person you know is your husband. Your funds are running low. You have no experience writing. You aren't techie, and yet you want to create a platform that highlights women business leaders. This was Elaine's real-life situation. Despite all of those obstacles, she managed to make her first sale within 1 week and publish 2 pieces of content every single day for over a year without doing any of the writing herself. Since inception in late 2016, she's managed to build her blog to more than 100,000 adoring fans. So how exactly did she do it? What does her daily process look like? Find out right this very second in this value-filled, awesome conversation with Elaine Rau. How are you doing today, Elaine?
Super. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. So, LadyBossBlogger, I want to start out by asking you, so you moved to Honduras, you quit your job, you don't know anybody, you moved there to be closer to your husband. You had thoughts of quitting blogging after a week, but then you made a sale. Can you tell me how you went about making that first sale that kind of catapulted you and was a proof of concept that, you could do this online thing?
Well, I think, honestly, I sent out probably about 100 emails and got about 10 responses and got 1 yes. So it was just basically trying anything possible to get someone to say yes.
How did you go about finding the people to send emails to?
I found them online, on Instagram, on Facebook. I would say mostly on Instagram via hashtag, actually. And I would follow them, I would connect with them, or I would check them out on Instagram and then go to their website, find their email, and then email them.
So a lot of prospecting, digging, a lot of time spent doing that. Mm-hmm. But I want to say, 1% conversion, but you made a sale, right? And that's something that, eludes a lot of people in their online journey. Do you think your background in sales helped you?
Oh, for sure. I think having people say no to you before, and definitely overcoming that was something that was very helpful, because I knew that I wasn't just going to be like, oh, reach out to 5 people and they're all going to say yes. I had realistic expectations, and I had a lot of time to prospect. When you're starting out, you really don't have a business. You don't have anything else that you're doing except for prospecting. You have to be your number one sales team and sales member. And that's how it worked.
For somebody that doesn't have a sales background, what would you suggest as far as getting better at sales and, sort of building up an immunity to all the no's that they are going to encounter?
I think maybe not thinking of it as sales per se, because it really isn't sales if you really believe in something. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like talking about a product to your best girlfriend and just raving about it. That's it. If you build relationships with your clients, you build relationships with people online, and you just talk about stuff that you enjoy, it comes very naturally, and it doesn't have to be forced at all.
So believe in what you're doing.
1,010% yes, because if you don't believe in it, obviously no one's going to believe what you have to say.
I don't know. There are some people when I go down to Florida that really seem to believe in timeshares. Maybe they really do. I don't know, but they're very good at getting attention and talking to people and not taking no for an answer. I will say that when you believe in something, you're much more inclined to seek people out, and you're going to get yeses because people are going to feel your enthusiasm
And I feel like if you're a business owner and you're selling something that you don't believe in, that you really don't think somebody will benefit from, you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So talking about that timeshare person, they obviously, either they're working for a company or whatever, but if they truly believe in it, they want you to believe in it too. If you don't, that's fine. They move on.
Sure. All right. So you grew up in Taiwan?
I did. I grew up in Taichung, Taiwan, which is the central of Taiwan, and it's the most beautiful and the best part of the world. Obviously, I'm biased. But yeah, it's my home. My parents still live there. It has a special place in my heart for sure.
When you moved to the States, where did you move and how old were you?
I was 17 or 16 and a half or something like that when I moved to the States. It was a humongous transition with culture, with language, with just everything. Plus on top of that, I was a teenager, so trying to figure out the whole life thing as well. But it was very interesting because in Taiwan, all I wanted to be was Chinese because I'm half Chinese, half German, and everybody else saw me as a foreigner. But when I moved to the States, I think a very interesting transition took place where people accepted me to be American and to be somebody that they, could understand, from how I looked. I had this image of America that was completely Hollywood. It was completely unrealistic, So it was very interesting. I had never seen a Black person ever before. And I saw I was like, oh my gosh, there's African-American people here. So I took an African-American humanities course to learn about African-Americans. And so I was sitting in class and there was, this girl, she came up to me and she asked me if, I was interested in Black men. And I literally told her very straight up, I said, I'm very interested in learning about the African American people. I had no idea, and so at the end, I'm glad they embraced me and it was not like an awkward thing at all. They call me DJ Taiwan. So Michigan was a very fun experience, very different, just Chinese culture girl trapped in an American looking body in a different world.
Stranger in a strange land.
Yeah.
You spoke English, I assume, when you moved to the States. So you spoke English. Do you speak Mandarin and
so I speak Mandarin
German?
to my mom and then English to my dad, not German.
No German?
No.
Gotcha.
Do you speak German?
No, I have a friend.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to beep it out or something.
No. I have a friend that he speaks German, Vietnamese. He's German Vietnamese. So he speaks English with like a thick, heavy German accent, which is weird coming from a little Vietnamese guy. But
right.
he makes it work.
Yeah.
So you went to school in the States. What did you go to school for? And
college you talked about?
Yes.
I went to school for art. I studied ceramics. Initially, actually, I knew I was always kind of artsy and kind of just floated around. I kind of like to do my own thing. But I actually wanted to do graphic design originally, but I didn't like that it was so stagnant behind a computer, which is kind of ironic because I'm a blogger and that's all I do. But I wanted to be ceramics because it was just very expressive. I felt like I could communicate, I don't know, how I was feeling to the world through art. But then after I graduated, the one aspect that I didn't want to continue with ceramics was I didn't want to be dirty all the time. I didn't like, the clay on me, I always find clay everywhere, and it's, mixing glazes, there's a lot of chemicals they have to deal with. And, so there was just that scientific element that I really didn't want to deal with either. So
How far along did you get on that path of ceramics before you switched directions?
I actually taught art for 2 years in college, and then out of college they hired me right out of college to teach art at their school, which it wasn't a school, it was a place where kids who are very artistic go to learn on the weekends. So I basically was like their educator on the weekends.
You went pretty far. I mean, you taught for 2 years in school and then afterwards as well.
Yeah, but that was only on the weekend. So what I actually got into was my first job out of college was actually at David's Bridal. So I was a part-time bridal rep. I did all sorts of little things. I was a promotional model, just did all these things all around Chicagoland. But basically I started recognizing that the wedding industry was something that I was very interested in and that I was very good at. So just, I mean, if you wanted to sell anything wedding, I was your girl. Like if you wanted to sell a venue, you wanted to sell dresses, you wanted to sell whatever. And I feel like that's how I transitioned into being working at a photo and video company and then working my way up to become the national wedding sales manager.
Was it a natural thing for you, selling?
Yes and no. I think that it's something that you just kind of you kind of get used to. But I feel like, I just like talking, I guess, and it's like work, you know? It's like talking to your girlfriends, you know, in the wedding industry. You're like, hey girl, check out this dress. Like, you know, there's a certain element of like girlfriendness that you gotta have.
I guess if somebody's going to a wedding shop, they're probably fairly enthusiastic and it's an exciting time in their life.
Yeah.
How'd you get to Chicago from Michigan?
So my parents found a job. So actually we were in Michigan because my parents had a sabbatical. So they're both professors. And then, after the sabbatical was done, they got a job. They both got jobs in Chicago. So that's why we moved my senior year. That, you know, I mean, the college, it just naturally, you know, was here. And then they moved back to Taiwan actually, my freshman year. So
then you were all by yourself in the States once they moved back?
Yeah. So basically I took care of my brother who was still in school because he was 2 years behind me. And so I was like, he was nominated, what were those little things called? The king of the school or whatever, you know. And so he needed like somebody to walk him down. And I was like, you know, a parent or something. I was like, I'm not doing that. But yeah, I was basically kind of like, you know, we took care of one another, I would say.
What's the age difference?
2 years.
2 years. So you're the older sister?
Yes. But I have two above me as well. So I have an older brother and an older sister.
Were they in the States as well?
My older brother, we're all 2 years apart. So my older brother had already graduated. And my older sister was going to Michigan State, actually.
Cool. Okay. So I want to get into your day, how you structure your day and how you've managed to build your blog to, you know, up to 100,000 people in a pretty short time, right? I think I saw that you started in 2016.
Yes. September 2016.
So what's something that when you first got into blogging, you used to do or believe that you would caution against now?
I used to believe that you have to work for free in the sense of that blogging, because before I started LadyBossBlogger, I was actually an intern for a year and a half at Half Stack magazine, which is this magazine in Chicago where they talk about all sorts of just Chicagoland things. And she had been running this blog for about 4 years and she wasn't making any money from it. So naturally, I wasn't her intern and I didn't make a dime either. And I think I didn't realize that how and basically how to monetize what it is out there and how the world is actually changing so fast that like is possible. But I think one thing that surprised me was how it's very techy, but you can do it. You know, like you can learn. There's so many resources out there. I mean, if you're stuck by tech, you know, read a tutorial. It might take someone, you know, a few weeks. It might take you a few months, but you can do it.
Do you have any go-to resources for how-tos, learning, tutorials, stuff like that?
I just look up on Google. Anything is Google.
Google
so
is
whatever
the resource.
pops up, because obviously, I mean, whatever pops up, you know, as, you know, the first few resources, that is what other people have found useful and, you know, what's helped them. So
what are some ways that people miss in, you know, monetizing their blog or monetizing what they're building that you see, like opportunities that are missed?
I think that there are a lot of opportunities, but everything's vague, and not a lot of people are talking about the actual ways, which is, this is the two ways that you can actually make money with blogging. Number one is affiliate marketing, that is the number one way. When you do not have your own product, that is the number one way to actually get passive income, because you work once and then you promote it and then you continue promoting it. And then that's, as long as it's good content, it will continue to regurgitate and people will share it. And then you'll continue to get that income because people trust what you say. And then once you have that down pat, then you transition to creating your own digital products, because now you understand how, some aspect or, whatever your niche is. And then you'll create your own product and then promote that. And I think going back to that first question, what you asked of something that surprised me about blogging was that it's actually not about a ton of content. It's about a ton of good content. So that's something that I guess was surprising to me for some reason.
And when you say promoting something in affiliate marketing, what exactly does that entail?
Promoting, you can have the best blogs in the world on your blog, right? Blog post. If you don't promote it, as in like sharing it on Facebook, sharing it on LinkedIn, blasting it out on your email list, or if you don't have an email list, telling your friends about it, whatever it is to get it out there, that's promoting it.
So don't be shy.
Yes. I mean, if you're in a little hole, no one's going to discover you. Like, you got to get out there.
As related to blogging, what would you consider a weakness that you have related to blogging? And do you take steps to regularly overcome that weakness, or how do you compensate?
My weakness is writing. Very ironic, because I was considered a blogger. But here's the thing. I didn't write a single blog post on my blog until I had been a blogger, quote unquote, for an entire year. This is how I did it. I interviewed people. I learned. My blog was my resource for myself. I didn't create it to monetize it, actually. I created it to learn. And in so doing, I created a resource not just for myself, but for other people who saw it as a valuable resource. And then they started, checking it out and wanting to write for me. So I'm not a blogger, or I am now, but I was a publisher. I published other people's content because it was good. And then in so doing, I didn't have to write anything.
When you talk about an interview, is that an audio interview, a written interview?
It's a written interview, as in AKA blog post.
For somebody who knows how hard it is constructing good questions that get quality answers, what was your process for coming up with the questions for the interviews?
Questions I had myself, and how to start a business online. How do you get customers? What is the best way to promote yourself? What is your business about? I think one thing that I was always curious about was, what do people actually do? I feel like I would read interviews and I'll be like, okay, but what does she do? How does she make money? How does she get customers? What's going on here? And so I wanted those questions answered. And that's why I titled all of my interviews exactly what they do. Like, XYZ teaches people how to XYZ, or whatever it is. And so that just eliminates, the question of exactly what they do.
So you are your own audience, basically.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is an important thing, especially for bloggers and creators. But
there is a time that you transition, and you have to know when to transition.
Okay, tell me about that.
And I feel like, so after a year of doing that, I felt like I had a lot of good content and a lot of good ideas of my own now, because as I said, I was in the wedding industry. I did not know a single thing about blogging, until I actually started doing it. And then after a whole year of doing it, I actually had something to talk about because I had a whole year of doing it,
Right. How did you feel sort of like, as it relates to writing? And since you were doing the interviews and you were the one who wanted the answers, basically, because you're your own audience, did you have a little bit of like imposter syndrome as far as giving advice and writing and telling people?
Never.
No,
because it wasn't my advice. I am not the expert. I am the broadcaster. I am the person who shows off other people. I didn't want to be an expert, or I didn't think in those terms. I thought that I was a learner, and if you're a learner, be a learner. Don't try to be an expert. Once you have that experience, under your belt, then you can start becoming the person to go to, but I would never, ever say that I'm an expert.
The reality is, I think when you immerse yourself in something like that for a year and you're asking questions and you're reading and you are a learner, that you do become an expert, right? Like you know more than most everybody on the planet on a specific topic. But it's hard. At least I'm a professional poker player. Like that's what I've done pretty much my whole adult life. And when I started coaching people and helping students, and my rate was pretty expensive, I had to deal with my own sort of imposter syndrome. Like, man, I'm getting paid, a fair amount of money to help these people out. Am I really providing the value? Am I giving them, a huge bang for their buck? And this is something that, I devoted my entire life to. So it's a personal thing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, few steps ahead of the people you're trying to teach. That's all you need, right? As in, you read a book, you read a few chapters ahead, you teach the other people who haven't read those chapters, and you just continue doing that.
Right.
So that's it. Because you're not there to teach the people who are ahead of you. You're there to teach the people who aren't there yet. And that's it.
As far as like future projects or maybe pivoting to something else within your specific niche, how do you go about identifying opportunities and then figuring out which ones are worthy of investing, a significant amount of your time into?
Market research. I think I've been doing a lot of that recently because I am at that pivot point where I feel like, I got, this knowledge in me. Now I want to transition it into a course, into a platform where I can teach other people. And so how I'm doing that is literally going on Amazon, checking out what other people are buying, what books are other people looking at, what, going on Google, what's popping there, basically.
By other people, you mean
other influencers in my specific niche, as in other people teaching blogging, other people wanting to become influencers, micro influencers, whatever.
Targeting your demographic, basically. What are they doing? How are they finding success?
Correct. Like what are also millennial women looking to learn, and how do they want to get that content? Is it video? Is it audio? Is it blog post? How do they like to consume their content?
Yeah, it's a very important piece of the puzzle. Some platforms do better than others. And, like Facebook Live right now, I think is a pretty big thing. All right, let's get into the day. Your just ideal work day. About what time do you start your day?
Actually, recently, I've completely changed my schedule. It was actually because of my change in my exercise habits and my eating patterns. So originally I'm always been known as a night owl. I'm always, waking up at 10 to noon and then sleeping at 2 to 1 or 2 to 3, whatever it is. That was my schedule for like the longest time.
I'm professional poker player. So,
so you understand.
Yeah,
yes.
I didn't see 9 a.m. I didn't see 9 a.m. for like a decade. So
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's when it operated the best. However, I stopped eating out every single meal. I literally went, every single meal. And I started, my husband started food prepping for us. And so basically, I don't know what it is, but like the food I was eating, I guess just gave me like a lot of energy, and I just started waking up earlier. So it wasn't necessarily that I tried, because when I try, I just can't. But literally, healthier foods. I started exercising, 4 or 5 times a week. And this has all happened within the past month. And literally these days I'm waking up at like 7.
Just ready to go. Bed.
Ready to go. I just pop up. I set my alarm for normally 7:30, and I pop up at 7. And now it's just getting earlier and earlier. And I feel like, I was always reading all these books, by all these people saying, the most productive people actually wake up early, and I'm like, well, I can be productive at night, but I don't know. Seriously, since I've changed this whole schedule, I do feel more productive. I feel like my days have lengthened, and everything I do is just better in quality.
So your husband does the food prepping. What does he prep? What does it consist of as far as his diet?
Going on, I don't know what site he gets it off of, but he's been pulling it from this one site. And we go shopping, and we have a very, very, and also like, this also saves money too, because if you have a very specific shopping list, and he actually, you know, the fresh foods are first, and then, you know, the pastas, and then the meat, and then, you know, like he plans it, you know, that list, you know, according to how we walk through the maze, you know, so it's very efficient and very, yeah. And so he'll basically be like, okay, you know, I'm like, how many tomatoes do we need? He said 2. So I will run over, grab the tomatoes, run back. I'll be like, what else? You know, he's like, okay, go get, you know, so like basically we tag team it and, try to get all the things on his list. But basically he gets that list from basically a few recipes that he pulls, and then he just compiles it.
Do you find that it helps avoid like impulse purchases at the grocery store too?
Yes, 1,010%. So it's definitely cut our expenses as well. I mean, a trip to the grocery store, you know, bi-weekly, about like $100 to $150.
Versus like $50 a meal eating out.
Yes, exactly.
Do you do it in a week? Like, do you put it in containers in your fridge and then? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically he'll do like a huge cookout session. Basically it'll take a few hours. Well, it could be like 5. And then I'll just be working beside him. He'll be like cooking his head off. And I'll help, you know, put the rice in there, and he'll put the meat in there. I mean, we kind of tag team it. But yeah, definitely everything's stacked up. And,
you said he's doing it for 5 hours and you put some rice in, and then you said you tag team it.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just there for moral support.
Giving yourself credit.
Right.
So you said you've recently started working out daily too. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me about that process?
Yeah. So originally to motivate myself, to go to the gym, I attended their classes. So every day at 5:30 p.m., cause I can't work out in the morning. I like to just be clean, and I like to shower at night. So I like to do it at night. So I would always go out to their 5:30 gym sessions, because that was the only time in their schedule where they would have a consistent Monday through Thursday. They had classes. So I was like, okay. So I would go there every single day, but I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And I was like, okay, what's going on? How come, you know, like all of a sudden I have like a little belly, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, I didn't have to deal with this before. What's going on? And so I talked to a personal trainer, and I was like, hey, like, you know, I used to do personal training, and it was awesome, but it was really expensive. And I want to do something similar, but I don't want to spend the money.
I want to circumvent you out of this process.
Right. He's like, why did you come to me then? I just want some advice. But yeah, so he walked me through an entire workout and everything like that. And he kind of like assessed me and like kind of said, he was like, yeah, you know, anyways. But I think that almost gave me the confidence, because I feel like why I hired a personal trainer before was because I didn't know how to use the gym tools. You know, I didn't know how to figure it out. I felt awkward walking around as a woman around all these, you know, weights. You know, I just didn't like it, you know, but I don't know. I feel like once he walked me around and I just got familiar with different things, I just all of a sudden felt very confident and very comfortable. And I realized that it's actually not that hard. You know, I started reading the labels, you know, of I mean, there's pictures, you know, like this is how you use it, you know, and I'm like, okay, I can do this, you know, but I think I needed someone to show me around and kind of like, I don't know, just get me familiarized so that I could feel comfortable in doing it myself. And so now I just go on Pinterest and I look up best belly fat, you know, reducing workouts. And then I just have it on my phone. And, you know, usually there's about like, you know, 12 in these iconographs, and I just have it on my phone and then I just do them, you know, that's it. and it's been working. And one thing that the trainer said to me was that he was like, well, you want the results that you had before that you had with a personal trainer. So why are you going to the classes that aren't this is the same. You're doing different workouts, like how are you expecting the same results? And he was like, what did you used to do with your trainer? And I said, I used to do those strings that are like body weight kind of things, there's strings and then you pull your body weight up. And he's like, why aren't you doing those? And I was like, oh my God, it just like clicked in my head. Like, why am I expecting, different results?
Yeah, doing something different and expecting the same results.
Yeah.
Do you do it at the same time still, late in the day?
Yep. Well, actually, now that I'm waking up earlier, I actually do it at around 3. So shifted a little bit, a few hours. Yeah.
Yeah, your day starts earlier, so everything goes back.
Yeah.
So what does an ideal morning routine look like for you?
I like to wake up and I like to make the coffee and drink the coffee. Except for now, I'm actually also transitioning to green tea, because I heard of all these benefits, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to be transitioning soon after I finish the coffee that I just bought.
You don't sound too excited about the tea.
Like I said, I'm a super tea drinker. It's just that I just bought this humongous thing of coffee and I need to finish it first, Maybe I'm just giving excuses. I don't know.
It's a sunken cost fallacy.
Yeah, maybe I'll just have my husband drink it all. But yeah, so basically that's that. I think that's an ideal morning to me. I know that you shouldn't look at your phone, but I feel like if it stresses you out, then don't do it. But if it motivates you for the day and gives you kind of an idea of what's going on, then do it. And that's what it does for me. I'm like, okay, got all these likes, yay, and then I was like, all right, let's go.
What do you check specifically on your phone?
It's always Instagram stuff, actually. That's what pops up. And it's just people, commenting or people DMing me, asking questions or, stuff like that. And when I go down and then I check my email, of course.
So after you drink the coffee, breakfast, typically?
Yes. And that's all meal prepped as well. He usually likes to make little mini burritos with like eggs and stuff like that inside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How long does it typically take you from, rolling out of bed to getting to work?
Roll out of bed, brush my teeth, go downstairs. I like to look out the window. And I guess that's like my time of like kind of, I don't know, I guess until the coffee finishes, basically, I just like to think and like breathe, not super intentionally, like, like super stressed out, but like, I don't know. I just like to look out the window.
It's like, contemplatively, is it?
Like, I'm always thinking about ideas, like, oh, I can do that. Or like, kind of just, I guess, exercising my brain a little bit before I dive in.
Do you write down the ideas or record them anyway?
I do not, unless they are something that I feel is something I want to do. Because you can have like a bajillion ideas, and obviously everyone works differently. But I think I think too much, and if I write everything down, I'm the kind of person who, if I write something down, I probably won't go back to it. Oh, really? Yeah, if I have an idea, I just do it. If it's good and it's viable, I literally will sit down and complete it in like one session, and I'm done. I'm not going to write down a billion ideas, because to me, ideas are just ideas. Until you do them, they're not worth anything.
Yeah. And a lot of them are really bad.
Yes.
A lot of them seem super great and then really bad.
And then after the coffee boils, you're just like, I'm not going to do that.
So as relating to LadyBossBlogger, if you could only accomplish a couple of things in your mornings, what would they be?
Definitely getting through my emails. In the sense of, it doesn't have to be 100% complete, but like the urgent things that I need to, attain, like, hey, clients have questions or whatever it is. I like to go through that and make sure that they feel, understood and heard and problems are dealt with. And 1, 2, 3. 2, I would say I like to always have, I always like to work on editing. basically keeping ahead of my schedule. So for example, right now I'm booked all the way until July for guest posts and interviews, but obviously I haven't edited all the way through. So I definitely like to stay at least a week ahead. But if not, I am generally about 3-4 days ahead of schedule.
So editing the interviews and stuff like that?
Yes. And then third is writing my own blog post now. So it used to just be editing and doing all that stuff. But now it's creating my own content.
Do you have any daily goals? How do you go about choosing what content you're going to create on a daily basis? It's
what I feel like people are talking about.
Through market research or just
through my options? Like basically, if I post a guest post, somebody else wrote about, whatever it is. Like recently I posted how to become an Instagram influencer and it just like blew up, so obviously I know my audience really is interested in Instagram. Number one, I already knew that they were very interested in Instagram because of my email marketing and my, basically the emails that people open up for my audience are very Instagram based. And so questions always are about Instagram. So I'm like, all right, obviously that's what people want to hear. But then once I paired it with being an influencer, oh my God, So basically, just on, reading their comments, on all platforms and then, learn.
Sorry, you cut out about what they want to learn about, basically paying attention to them and then giving them what they'll love.
Exactly. So it's never like, hey, I want to write about this. It's like, hey, what are people talking about? And I'm like, okay, let me write about that. Like I wrote a post about auto posting on Instagram because I discovered a way that I didn't realize other people didn't know, which I'm going to tell you about now, that it's actually, did you know that Instagram actually has a drafts folder?
I did not know that.
Yes. And honestly, that's how I schedule everything. So it's not through, a auto scheduler or anything like that, which, can be great, but this is just how I've been doing it. And especially it's a great way if you don't have, funds to pay for an auto scheduler initially. All you have to do is you edit it and do everything and you press back and then it'll say, do you want to save it? And you said yes. And you press back again. So you press back 2 times to access your drafts folder, and that's it. And then what I love about that is that it actually saves it as rows, like the gridded rows. So you don't need a visual planner either.
So then, do you just at a specific time log in and post it?
So yes, every single day I post at 6 p.m. Central, all platforms. It doesn't matter what it is.
Any reason why 6 p.m.? People getting off work?
Yep. People, I do emails in the morning because people are normally, by the end of the day, they're just like, oh my God, I don't want to read stuff, whatever. But on social media, they're active. Yeah, because they're after work. So
they want to disappear.
Exactly. Or they're already checked out and they're just on their phone. They're like, when is 6 or when is, 5 hitting.
Yeah. So you do your emails and now you're doing your writing. Do you edit your writing as you go along? Do you give yourself like a lunch break and then go back to it? How does that look? Yes, I do edit myself, but I also have an editor. So he actually went to school with me and he's trying to start his own editing business. And so he's an intern for me now and building his professional resume up by working for me. Yay. So yeah, he's a great editor. Like I feel like I'm like a true blogger. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I'm just kind of more carefree, I'm like, hey, if there's a spelling mistake, hey, my bad, but like, he's like, hey, this grammatical structure is not correct. You got to fix it. I'm like, all right, sorry, Stephen. So he's great. Yeah. My assistant, Clyde, he, forever, I didn't have a professional photo of myself. And then one day I logged on my website and I saw that like he's a visual person. And I'm not so much, but he had photoshopped a suit on my head and I was like, oh my God, like people can see this. Like I went out, I got a guy, did professional photos the next day. I was like, this cannot stay on my website more than 24 hours.
Oh my God, that's great. He gave you a little kick in the butt.
Yeah. It's like, I'll make a worksheet or something like that, and he'll look at it and he'll just be like, oh, I
gotta fix this mess.
I gotta fix this. And I'm proud of it. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's great working with people though, because I feel like, yeah, they definitely, you got to work with people who cover your weaknesses for sure.
For sure. And as far as, outsourcing or delegating, how do you go about doing that? And what do you outsource and delegate?
I have a few interns out of college, and they are, they basically create Pinterest content for me. So that's something that I super procrastinate with. So whatever it is that I procrastinate with, I know that I don't want to do, I delegate out to my interns and whatever else.
How do you go about finding an intern?
At this specific college, they actually found me because I did a talk there. So they had this panel speaker thing where there was 4 speakers, and it was probably a room full of about maybe 300 juniors and seniors. And basically, I just pitched them, as I was answering a question, I was like, also looking for interns, apply if you like, and then they did. So, but prior to that, before I did that talk, I just posted it on my website, and people just applied, or sometimes at the very beginning, just a few months in, I posted it on Facebook, and I was like, hey, anybody interested, apply. And I've just gotten interns, just people referring other people, like, hey, I've done with my internship, you should check this out. So, it's work.
As far as productivity, like having these other people around you, what sort of boost do you think that is? Especially because they're doing things that you procrastinate yourself, which means you probably don't really want to do it. So you're, investing willpower into something that you don't really want to do. I just want to, I guess, get to the point where it's like, if there's something that's important that needs to be done and you're not doing it, outsourcing it is very, very valuable. Asking people for help is very underutilized and underrated as far as, running the show. Okay. So after your day, actually we're at lunch now, right? So,
yeah.
So we're at lunch, the back half of the day. What tasks are reserved for the back half?
I actually like to spend time with my husband. So we like to, just chill, probably watch Forensic Files or something like that, so we like to watch crime shows and fun stuff like that.
Have you seen Broadchurch?
I have not. Is that on Netflix?
Yeah. It's the best crime show.
Is it new?
No, I think it was 2014 through 2017. It's like a UK drama crime show. It's really, really good.
Okay, it's called what?
Broadchurch.
Broadchurch. All right, I'll tell him. He's the one who always finds the shows. I just watch them.
Yeah. I just wasted 30 hours of your life right there. You won't be able to stop watching it once you get hooked. So as related to managing your interns, how do you spend time? What systems or processes do you have in place to make sure that they're successful?
Yes. I always ask them before they even apply what they want to learn and why they're even applying. What's their motivation? What drives them? I feel like for me, my interns, they're awesome, but obviously I have to give them something back too. It's not slave labor. It's definitely, it's a give and take, so what I like to do is whenever I sit down with my intern or whenever I'm, talking to my interns, I always, they give me a report on what's going on. And normally, they're very self-starters. So I can see exactly what's going on. In Canva, you share stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, she did it, check. But I'm not on their backs ever, but then when we do talk, we just kind of talk about, what's going on and what do they want to learn or what's something that another question that popped up that I can answer for them. So that's kind of our give and take. And for I actually had an intern from Dublin, when I first started out. And I actually helped her get her, like, she was about to get kicked out of Dublin because she wasn't a resident there. But she needed a reference form of somebody that she worked for. And so she asked me, and I wrote her this amazing, reference letter, basically, helping her obtain the apartment that she needed. And then so she was able to stay. Granted, after I wrote that, she, got the job and, she moved on. But, that was my contribution to her, So I know with interns, they're not going to stay around forever. But I think if an intern is willing to work really hard, I'm going to make sure they get the maximum value out of me and their time spent with me. So they want to learn something, they want to get to the next step real quick, then they intern for me. It's that simple. Have you ever had to get rid of any interns? Never had to. Only in college, but that was something else. I was like anyways, we're not going to talk about that.
So you're batting 1,000. Basically, make a good hire in the first place, as related to the people that are helping you out. Yes, but I think in the sense of it's only a few months, so you can't necessarily expect the world from them. They're an intern, they're working for free, you can't expect these crazy things out of them. A typical evening, just you hanging out with your husband. Do you deal with work-related stuff in your afternoons? And also, if you don't, how do you, what systems do you put in place to, click work off? Everything that I do is pretty much automated. So it's very easy for me to be able to not just check out, in the sense of, if I need to work out, I just, whenever I'm going places, I like to maximize my time by listening to podcasts. That's something that I really, really like doing. And I just recently started listening to Gary V. I know I probably should have been listening to him for ages, but I was searching through all these podcasts and I was like, everything's just not really clicking. And I started listening to him and I was like, whoa, I like this guy. So I started listening to him recently, actually. So no matter if I'm driving, to the gym or, whatever it is, I'm always listening to a podcast to maximize my time when I'm not working. Do you read a lot? How do you go with further learning? Yeah, I do. I do read a lot. And actually there's a lot of, I guess I'm on some PR list of some sort, but I get pitches all the time to review books. And so I literally have a stack of 50 books in my living room, just waiting for me to read. And so I've read about half of them, but I actually need to start, basically showing, doing the reviews and stuff like that. But that's how I get my reading in, is when a PR person pitches me and this new book or whatever. The most recent one I just read was this book called 5 Day Weekend. So it's kind of like a spin-off of the 4-hour work week. I was like, whoa, this guy is onto something. He's really, obviously gets sold, why not catch on with Tim Ferriss, So actually I forgot the author of this, but anyways, but it's really, really good. And basically, it's at another level of business that I'm not at yet. It's at investor level, VC level, whatever. But there is something for everyone in that book. And if you want to set up your business for success, that's something that you should read and read over and over and over again until you get to that place where you want to be in life. And you did mention courses that you were interested in, creating courses for your audience. Are there any influencers that you follow as related to courses? Yes. How I got into the first course I ever bought was from Michelle Gardner. She is the queen of affiliate marketing. And I bought her book and I was like, or her course, and I was like, my world, I feel just turned upside down. I feel that's when I realized that courses are the way to go, because that's where the best information is. Yes, you can scour around in for years on the internet and find, morsels of information. But for
somebody who's been doing it for 7 years, which is how long she's been doing it, and she just compacts everything she knows in one course, and you just purchase that from her, that is so much more valuable than like just scampering around the internet, and I realized like that's why people buy courses. And literally after I bought that course, I started buying a bunch of courses. I was like, this is where it's at. And that's why I want to create a course too, because I know that people can glean what I've learned.
And another thing too about courses is, if you're wondering, how do I build a relationship with an influencer? How do I build a relationship with one of these people that make courses? Mm-hmm. Buy their course.
Yes. Buy their course and then interview them. That's what I do with Michelle. Her interview is coming out really soon. I don't know exactly what date it is, but it's basically within the next few weeks. Her interview is going to be coming out. So yeah, definitely build a relationship with them. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because, they want star students. They want testimonials. They want success stories. That's helps them build and grow. So a lot of times, when the barrier to entry is like a $99 course or $200 course or whatever it is, it really is a good opportunity to network.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and I feel like another thing is that people don't, going back to actually a question that you asked like way earlier in regards to what you thought about blogging, it's all about community. Yes, blogging can be very lonely if you choose to do it by yourself. But there's a whole community out there of people wanting to collaborate, wanting to guest post, wanting to work together, if you are willing to do that, and that's when your everything will start, the opportunities will pop up, quote unquote, is when you start communicating online.
And you mean communicating specifically to other websites, other people in your niche. So how about your own community? What steps do you take to build that and, help the people that, the women that come to you find other opportunities with, women that you've previously worked with?
People will email me quite often, actually, like, hey, do you have any resources or whatever for, PR, or like, how did you get featured in the Huffington Post? Who wrote your feature? How did you get that connect? I've actually got that several times. And this is how. I featured a woman who is a PR lady, and we just clicked. And like a few days later, she was like, hey, let me introduce you to my connect in HR. In HuffPost. And that's how it went. So it's connections. That's it.
Always about connections and reaching out, no matter if it, makes you feel uncomfortable or whatever. Give value to people, provide value, and build a relationship. And then, you take care of each other.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and actually she's helping me get into a few other ones. I think like Thrive Global or something like that soon, as well as another one. But I can't remember. I need to work on it because I have the interview for both of them that I need to fill out on my desktop, and it's been there for weeks. And I need to just get to it because I'm the only one who can actually complete it. I can't, outsource that because it's an interview with myself.
Speaking of which, do you have a task list that you create for yourself on a daily basis?
No, not written. It's in my head, and I have a general idea, and I get it done. If there are specific things that I need to do, I do put them in my calendar, which is basically my iPhone calendar, and I'll list it out, like meetings, physical meetings or in person, like, with you and me, like I put it in my phone, blocked out the time, stuff like that.
Just set a reminder and
yes, exactly.
As far as tools, there are bajillion tools, all kinds of services, products designed to help you grow your thing. And it kind of gets overwhelming. What tools do you use specifically on a daily basis that give you, the most bang for your buck?
Definitely ConvertKit, because that is my email marketing provider. And it's the best for bloggers and creatives. It's very visually based. It's very easy to use. It is more on the pricey side, but it's 1,000% worth it because obviously that is the way that you have your audience, right? I mean, that's the way you communicate. That's the way you track things. That's the way you do A/B tests. That's the way you do automations, segmentations, blah, 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 right? So that's number one. Number two is Smarter Queue. I use that to schedule out basically my posts and make them evergreen, which basically means that, reoccurring, having them, instead of posting it once on Facebook, it will regurgitate your content back, in like 30, 60 days, whatever it is, however you set it. Let's see what else. But I mean, basically any automation tools. Those are the top two right now I'm thinking of. Oh, definitely WordPress scheduler, which is basically, helps me auto post my blog posts.
You just load them up. I guess it's a free plugin for WordPress sites.
Yep, exactly.
And as far as ConvertKit, I mean, there's a lot of different email list
providers.
Yeah. What is, I guess you said it's very visual. It's very intuitive, easier to use than like a MailChimp, Aweber type of service. I
think that ConvertKit is very gorgeous, but like the emails that they actually spit out are actually very simple. So, which is what I personally really like, because simple emails convert, not the gorgeous blah blah ones that you overly design. No one really cares about that. It's something. I don't know what it is, but like the simpler it is, the better. And so,
by simple, what exactly do you mean by simple? Like one image and then text?
Yeah, exactly. So something that just basically has a really easy call to action, like this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to check out. This is what's going on right now, and that's it. Your title should be like one thing. Your content should be one thing, and then your call to action should be one thing. That's it. Instead of trying to make this all branded and blah blah.
Yeah, it's hard enough getting somebody to do one thing, much less three things.
Yeah.
You did mention Canva earlier too, right? That's a staple of yours.
It is 1,000% a staple. Yes, that is. I actually discovered it when 15 interviews in a row that I interviewed mentioned this design thing in their interviews, and I was like, wow, I should definitely check this out. And that's how I've discovered all my tools, is basically what other people recommend.
That's a good way to find tools.
Yes.
Are there any skills that you've recently learned that you couldn't really imagine living without today? And how'd you go about learning those skills?
I think my writing skills, honestly, since I started writing, I think I've just been getting better and better and better. And obviously, judging from compared to my guest posts, the posts that I post versus my guest posts or even my interviews, they're getting a lot more just reader interaction and people just really feeling, what it is I'm talking about. So I guess maybe I was putting myself down in the sense of not thinking that I could write a good blog post when actually innately I really could, but I just never tried it.
Kind of like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like, once you get the knowledge and find yourself comfortable, then, you're able to let loose and do a better job. And also too, like, as with most things in life, the more often you do it, the naturally more comfortable you get and the better you are at it.
Exactly.
Do you take read any specific books on writing or any specific content?
I mean, everything is basically online. If I need to research anything, I research it online. But I actually recently got this book by Mariah Allen, she's been a writer since forever ago, like, I don't know, maybe 70s or something. And I actually just interviewed her as well. And I got her book in the mail recently called How to Start Your Career as a Freelance Writer. And I'm about to dig into that book, and I'm super excited about it.
Nice. So when you're out of your comfort zone, like you're not in your house, you're visiting family or friends or something like that, what do you do to push through with your work? I
think that I actually am a very disciplined person in the sense of, if I got some stuff to do, I'm going to leave the room and going to do it, and then I'll go back, or I will literally just be like, hey, don't talk to me. I'm going to be sitting here. Don't talk to me for like an hour. Like, I'm very, very direct. If I got to get stuff done, like, hey, that's it.
Okay.
So you're visiting your husband's family, right?
Yes.
Like, how are you? Like, I doubt you're going to tell them, don't bug me. Don't talk to me for an hour.
Okay, well, you said my family, you know.
A situation that, like, I picture myself, visiting my wife's family. And one thing that I've learned about myself is like, so I meditate in the morning, pretty much every morning. And I use the Calm app. It's my go-to thing. And I could be on like a 70-day streak, and I go visit her family, out of my element, out of my comfort zone, and I just fall completely to pieces. Do you have anything you do for that situation?
I think that is why I automate everything, and that is why I work a week ahead of schedule. So actually, now that you mentioned that, I actually do this a lot. So like I always go on trips with my girls. I always go, on different, whatever it is. And before that, that's my motivation to get everything done for that duration, because I have everything scheduled and it's put into my feed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So literally, as long as I have that all done, and everything's on automation, I actually don't have to do any work during that time.
So basically, family time is family time, and you sort of block it off.
Yes, but I like, it's not, I guess it's less so like an obligation, like, hey, I got to do this like right now, versus like, hey, I want to do this, and I'm just going to go and like write a blog post and come right back out. During Christmas, I visited, my husband. Well, okay. He's an orphan. So his family, quote unquote, is the family that hosted him when he was 20 years old and is starting to go to college. We went to their Christmas, basically their house for Christmas. And for the first time, I actually did one of these things, live with several people reached out to me at the end of the year, and they were like, hey, we're doing this podcast thingamajiggy, and, we would love you to, be on it. And I was just like, I was so uncomfortable. I literally, I can't tell you how nervous I was, So that was the only time that I actually had to block off, because I knew that if I didn't set it right then and there, I wouldn't do it. So I basically said, yes, this is the time I'm available. And then, so while the whole family was out playing soccer or wherever they were playing something, I was home alone, and I just like pounded out 3 of these interviews back to back with 3 different people. I guess that was like the thing, like, new year, new way of making your email list. So that's what they were doing. And I don't know, so yes, I just pounded 3 of them out, one after the other. And I was just like, okay, this is great. And then lunchtime came around, they all came back, and then we just hung out. So I guess it was just knowing what their schedule was. So I'm like, I don't want to play soccer, I'm going to do this, So yeah.
Where do you think that the discipline to follow through comes from?
I am not a people pleaser at all. I think that might be a huge element of it, because I do have a lot of people who like to do what everyone else is doing, or like, it's the whole family, the phone, you got FOMO or whatever. I'm like, no, like screw FOMO. I don't, you're going to FOMO me. I feel like for me, it doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing, because I'm going to do what I want to do. So, or this is important to me. You need to respect my time, cause like, yes, family time is important. And obviously I'm spending time, but I don't have to spend 24 hours with them. Right.
Yeah.
So I think for me, and my mom, this is the thing though, I've not always been like this. It is a discipline that you discipline yourself to be disciplined. I'm an artist. I'm a ceramicist. I am a free mind. I'm like everywhere. I think when you have something that is going to get you somewhere that you want to be, that drive is so much more important than anything else, that you can't not be disciplined in it. For me, I just think that, and I guess my mom is actually really, really disciplined, and maybe perhaps I saw that, and indirectly I got that from her,
I'm sure that a part of it, was your mom giving you a good example to follow behind.
But I feel like also more than anything, it's once you have a purpose, once you have a vision, once you know exactly what you want, that's when you are going to be 1,000% disciplined no matter what.
I'm not going to let anything get in your way, cause you to stumble. If there was one truth that you could make everybody understand, or more specifically, your audience understand, what would it be?
That you are more capable than you think you are, in the sense of, I can't believe it's actually only been a year and a half. I feel like LadyBossBlogger has been my entire life, but it's literally the whole premise of, and my readership knows of how LadyBossBlogger started was from extreme turmoil and extreme uncertainty and extreme sadness and everything, you know what I mean? So you can do way more than you ever think possible when you actually are in those kind of situations, which is when you think the least of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you went to Honduras, didn't speak the language, didn't know anything, became successful in an area that was foreign to you. That's very, commendable. And it obviously shows a lot of mental strength. Okay. Well, one more.
Okay.
If you could access a time machine and, go back in time to you're 21 years old and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Ooh, I would actually go forward in time. I don't want to go back in time. I want to see what I will become. But oh goodness, 21. Continue enjoying life. Continue following exactly what you want to do, and you will get exactly what you want to get. Because when I was 21, as with anybody, you're kind of purposeless, floating around. You're just, but I think that I would encourage myself to keep doing that, because there's nothing wrong with that's self-discovery. And as long as you keep on discovering who you are, who you want to be, and you just keep on getting better and better and better, then that's it.
That is what life's about. Elaine, thank you very much. I am super appreciative of your time and energy. I know you're a very busy lady, and I guess it's 6:20, so time to go watch some Broadchurch.
Yes. Oh goodness. Yeah, I'm going to tell my husband about that.
All right, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Talk soon.